What it do, ladies and gentlemen? We're here doing a live session on where to go based on the astrology charts, USA or Mexico. First disclaimer, understand that the United States is large. Understand that Mexico is just as big. A lot of the United States is only 80% on West Coast, East Coast. A lot of Mexico is only lived in the middle region. A lot of the United States mute that down. A lot of the United States, Mexico's only lived in the middle region from like Puerto Vallarta on the west coast, California side, going through Guadalajara, Jalisco as a state, Guanajuato, Mexico City, Veracruz. It's only lived in the middle because of the geographical. So this is an astrocartography take. All right. I do have my charts up and ready on the side. Let's give you a glance. So we're going to do the USA chart on the Vedic. We're also going to do some love for Astro Witch. What up, girl? We're going to do the Vedic chart for the USA, the Western Placidus chart for the USA. We're also going to do the Mexico chart for USA. We're going to do the Vedic chart for USA. So I have some mini notes. I did some pros and cons. Okay, so let's really kind of cover the USA pros and cons. Before I do, I want to say thank you for hitting the thumbs up and the likes button early. If you're watching this on replay, thank you. You're also valued. I'll try to do my best to do some timestamps on this as well. Pros and cons of the USA. I just came back from the USA. I took a trip there, and so I feel like I have a lot of updated information. I've been living in Mexico maybe total 2.5 years. So 2.5 years experience. Obviously, I'm dating a Mexican. And so I asked her about a little bit. I did some research on the history of Mexico, which I've been doing for months and months and months. But um, here we go. So let's kind of get into the pros and cons. All right. So number one, let's look at the pros for the USA. Um, Before I go any further, what's important is to understand that when you look at astrocartography, you as an individual can have any line. You can have more sun lines in the US. You can have more Venus lines in the US. The United States is big. You can live in Cincinnati. You can live in San Diego. You can live in Miami, right? Same thing with Mexico. You can live in Puerto Vallarta. You can live in Cancun, Playa del Carmen. You can live in Quetaro. You can live in Guanajuato. You can live in Guadalajara. You can live in a lot of places. So the lines will change as an individual. So understand that when you look at this. You really want to come get a one-on-one astrocartography reading with me or your preferred astrologer when it comes down to it. Like, I'm not the only one that's doing it, but I have a personal passion in it. During this Jupiter and Gemini transit, I'm going to go ahead and talk about that more when it comes to going to your neighboring countries, moving about beyond the neighborhood boundaries. So we look at the USA. All right, here's the pros. So let's start that off. And we have, let me try to see if I can go 315. Try to benchmark that. Okay, 315. I'm trying to benchmark this as I go. Great. So you look at the USA con. You have career opportunities. Okay, you see that there. You have career opportunities. I feel like this used to be a major pro, and I feel like it's not as big as a pro now. But we'll call it a pro. It's a wide range of jobs. Okay, you have a lot of opportunities. It's the land of opportunity. We'll look at that in the USA chart in a minute. Various industries, you're able to transfer funds pretty easily if you're an American with Americans. I would say one of the cons is if you're American, you have American banks, it's very difficult. I would call that a con. It's very difficult to transfer funds to another country, to somebody who has a bank outside of your own. Like, I run into that difficulty now when it comes to the currency. When I run events like retreats with my partner, she has Mexican banks, I have US banks. I run into that as an issue. So I can't even call that a pro for the transfers because it's not as simple. Then you have to worry about conversions. The US dollar is falling tremendously against the Mexican peso right now. Mexican peso is growing stronger, the US dollar is growing weaker. So I would call that a con. But I would say, like, traditionally speaking, this used to be a pro. Okay, I would call this a pro. I don't know how much this is a pro now in today, but especially when it comes to the transferring funds. But what you can say is in the United States, you have cultural diversity. Okay, so this is definitely something that's huge. It exists. There's a lot of cultures. The United States is a melting pot, especially in your New York City, your Los Angeles, your Miami. So you have a lot of different cultural fusion, which I feel is not as common in Mexico. In Mexico, you have a lot more Mexicans. Okay, and if not that, let me see what's going on here. What is that? I don't know. If you're listening to this, I need you to comment in the chat. I see you texting me, but I need you to comment in the chat because I can't open that right now. I'm recording on my phone. Um, so I would say that in Mexico, you have a lot of Mexicans. Okay, you have a lot of Spanish-speaking cultures. So I would say that the cultural diffusion is much greater in the U.S. You have a lot of languages in the U.S. You have the Chinese, you have Indians, in their engineering aspect, especially in the West Coast. I would even say all over, really, quite frankly, but a lot of Asian influence. Um, you have a tremendous amount of Hispanic influence, right? Like when I went back to my own hometown in Connecticut, I just got back like yesterday, and so many people speak Spanish, and they've always spoke Spanish, but I've only recognized it because my Spanish has enhanced, it's upgraded. So, U.S. big pro when it comes to cultural diversity. Okay, blending of the cultures, infrastructure very advanced. Okay, I would say the United States has a lot of cities. It is hot, bro. I am hot. Okay, we're gonna call that a con in Mexico. It is hot in the hot seasons. Okay, but we're not there yet. Um, Water break. I'm also wearing jeans so that I don't get hit by the mosquitoes. So I would say that in the U.S. you have a lot of infrastructure. Things are built up, right? You don't ever have to worry about Wi-Fi. You never have to worry about connection. You never need to worry about governmental buildings, whether and their official status and what they do and what they don't do, right? If anything, you have to worry about the fact that they're so efficient and that they get their taxes, they collect their debts, they collect. But I would say on the plus side, like you can set up an LLC very easily. You can set up a business. If you got the money in the U.S., you can set up like that. I would say that is there corruption? Yes, but I would say not as much as other countries. Like there's a lot more corruption in Ghana. There's a lot more corruption even in Mexico. Like politicians are corrupt. It happens. I think that the corruption between politicians in Mexico and politicians in the U.S. are very different. I think that on a grand scale, the corruption in the U.S. is a little bit worse. I'll call it a con. But ultimately, like there is infrastructure. You can set up companies, business. You can get over on taxes. You can find loopholes. But I would say you could do that in both. Okay. So I'm gonna kind of speed through these so we can get back to the charts of Mexico and kind of help that out. Freedom, rights. Okay, this is a pro for the United States, but in reality, it's like how much is it a pro? Like it's a pro that's advertised, and when I look at this right here, you kind of see in this chart of the US, right? If you were able to look over at the Gemini side, it's on the top of the chart, meaning it's very public. And I look at this, there's a lot of planets in Gemini, right? You have a oh my bad. This is the Vedic chart. This is the Vedic chart. But let's say you got the sun there, you got Venus there, you got Mars there. Okay. That's 1, 2, 3. And you have is that Cancer? Yeah, that's Cancer for Mercury. So you have 3 planets there in Vedic, and let's kind of go ahead and look at it for Placidus for a moment. In Gemini, you have Mars and Gemini. Okay, I feel like the Mars and Gemini is very potent when it comes to this. So this is where we are fighting for the freedom of speech, but the freedom of speech doesn't really exist in the United States, and I think this is a con. I think that, in all sincerity, you can't really say what you want without getting censored, whether it's via, I'm not even going to name it, but name the media platforms, okay? The one we're using right now, the one that I pretty much got off of recently, the one who is owned by, Luckenberg, the one, right? If you look at this Mars and Gemini on this USA chart, it's like your beliefs are not really able to be expressed, but it's promoted that way. And so, again, this is under the pros section because freedom of speech, but I really feel like it's a con at this point in time. All right, let's move on. I will say this is a legitimate pro. The United States, in the nature in the United States, whether it's desert, lush greenland, winter, snow, solace, beautiful sunshine states, California, Florida. I feel the nature in the United States is beautiful. I feel like at the end of the day, like you look at it, this is something that every time I visit there, I'm like, wow, it is incredible. Like it blows me away how green the state is that I'm from. It's just mind blowing. But I feel like when you're in the United States, you don't actually. I feel like the con is you're so busy, you're so busy, you're so busy. You look at this Gemini right here. All right, even if you go back to the Vedic chart, you look at this stellium of Gemini right here. It's like it's so busy that you don't really recognize the beauty. Okay, let me see what this is saying. You don't really recognize the beauty, and I feel like this is a pain where it's there, but until I left, I wasn't able to see it. But every time I came back, no matter what year I came back, no matter what time, no matter how long, I was like, wow, it is so green here, so beautiful. All the countries that I'm in, it's not always as beautiful, other than like Bali and like countryside Thailand, but it's not that beautiful everywhere. So I would say US has this without a doubt. Okay. So when I go ahead and I take a moment to look at the cons, uh, I do need to kind of type these out. I don't need to type them up, but I need to paste them. So give me a moment. I have the AstroCartography for the United States, planetary lines. I got the pros. Okay, so here we go. I got this. Copy, paste. Let's drop that in the chat. What's up, J-Lo? I see you down there, girl. I appreciate you. Okay, so we're going to type in the cons now for the United States, and we have number one pulling up right now. And I feel like this is the most obvious, right? The cost of living in the United States is out of control. Like, let's be honest. Like, people are working so many jobs, you literally can't afford to live there. Like, even with all the 3, 4, 5 jobs in the United States, like, you can't afford to live there. If I try to zoom in and see what this is saying in the chart, I kind of want to go to the Placidus right now. Let's go to the Placidus for the United States. So if I look at it, okay, I'm gonna look at 10th house, career, big challenge being in Libra, okay, but it's exalted there, aka the work in the United States. I've seen this when I moved to California. When I moved to California, I had a very positive line in astrocartography, and I made more money than I've ever made in my entire life. And I never struggled other than the first 2, 3 months when I was trying to get my jobs. And I just started meeting a high society of people. So I didn't have that in the United States. In Connecticut, when I lived in Connecticut, I lived on a Saturn line and it was tougher. I never met these people. I met these people, but they didn't get me anywhere. Like I met millionaires. I became friends with millionaires. It didn't get me anywhere. I became friends with really wealthy people. It didn't get me anywhere. I will also say that I wasn't willing to use such connections to get me anywhere. So that exists too. Like I morally speaking, ethically speaking, when I met them in Connecticut, I took the path of building it myself. That's what worked the best in Connecticut. And when I went to California, for example, I lived on, what was my astrocartography line there? I don't remember. But I remember I had a positive line and I made a lot of connections in California. I've never really passed the first 3 months. The first 3 months, I was struggling. I won't lie. I was delivering pizza. I was bartending. I was training on the beach, and all of that. Like in the beginning, like I kind of started from zero. I didn't know anybody other than my boy Sean. So shout out to you, Sean. Sean gave me a place to stay. He gave me a couch in the beginning. I went from a couch and I upgraded to roommates, and I upgraded again and upgraded again, upgraded again. So I kept rising. So I would feel like that Libra and Saturn, that challenge there is about forming the proper relationships. All right, when it comes to the United States, I feel like this will be the biggest thing when it comes to your career, because once I got the right connections, okay, and I had to kind of push new ideas to make those connections. So Libra, Saturn, and Libra, in the US, you have to think, and you have to think, what do I have, and what do they need, and how can I supply that need? Okay, how can I provide value to somebody across from me? And when you do that in the United States, you start not needing money and a physical asset. Because I always say this: Libras don't need money. Libras need people. And if you know the right people, you will advance in the United States. And so that's something that I gotta say that United States, like when you look at opportunity, this is a very positive pro. And I've seen that. The key is you have to be willing to talk to people. And that's a key critical aspect. The North Node is in Leo, so you have to be willing to take risk on your ideas. If you're unwilling to take risk and you're waiting for basically the flow of the universe with the South Node in Aquarius to go ahead and guide you to making money, you will never make it in the US. Now, if you take your own unique ideas and you form that and you study and you take on mentors, this is when you'll realize like it's popping, it's on and popping. When I started taking mentors in Atlanta, I took on Jim Rohn as a mentor. I paid Tony Robbins at one point, and it's like when I started paying people to advance my money and my opportunities, they started to multiply. My courage and my confidence to take risk in the U.S. This is what it takes, I find, in the U.S. All right, as we get to the Mexico chart very soon. Okay, so, but I would say overall that the con is, especially when it comes to food, eating healthy foods is damn near impossible. It's like, God damn, it's so expensive. And even when you get the food that's healthy, like it's always with a chemical. It's just really annoying. Okay. Personal opinion, like I feel like eating healthy there is difficult. I can get a fresh made smoothie. I'm gonna stick to Mexico when I get here. Okay. But yeah, I'll stick to Mexico when I get here. Healthcare costs. Okay, I don't have insurance. I haven't had insurance even when I lived in the U.S. I took my insurance away. When you don't have insurance, the cost out of pocket is insane. So I just took care of my health on my own, and I just took the insurance away. I did my own haircuts, and I took that expense away. Expenses, you got to find in the U.S. how to make multiple income streams. And so when you look at this chart here, you see that Aquarius is in the South Node in the second house of your generating income, right? So the income you generate, Aquarius is about multiple income streams. So in your past life, you were able to generate multiple income streams. You have to use that to generate some in this life on certain risk and the stock exchange and the markets with entrepreneurial endeavors, which is the North Node in the eighth house. So your chunky money in the United States, this is why it's the land of opportunity. Your chunky money, which is the eighth house, is in Leo, meaning you got to do this on your own. And you've got to realize that you have the support from your past life for people to support multiple income streams when you jump off on your own and take these scientific mindsets and ideas and act on them like a fire sign. So that's the beautiful pro, I feel like, again. But the con is, in this instance, the healthcare is ridiculous. You cannot pay out of pocket. And the amount that you pay to insurance over time, to life insurance, to all kinds of insurance, dental insurance, all that, it's a dead ass scam. That's another con when I look at the US. It's a scam. Like you pay so much that you really could pay out of pocket when the time comes by taking a trip to Thailand, to Mexico, where these two countries, among others, have tremendously high quality healthcare. And you could do it without insurance because no one has it. You just pay the same set fee as a person who makes $10 million a month and the same person who makes $1 a month. You're going to pay the same. It doesn't matter your brackets. It doesn't matter your social economic status. You're going to pay the same in Mexico. So let me kind of hit the thumbs up and the likes button, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for hearing that heart button. I'm excited. I'm honestly more excited to get to Mexico. I ain't gonna lie to you. So we have another one. The political climate is absolutely insane. It's up, it's down. In the United States, if you look at this chart, they make you believe that there is a left wing and a right wing, that there's a democracy and the Republicans. They truly have convinced you and lied to you. I feel like to highlight this, I need to go to my Vedic chart to better highlight that and see what instructors are actually being spoken on. So what do I see here? Okay, so politics, this is things like the sun. The sun is in Purnavasu, and Purnavasu is run by the planet Jupiter. Now, the main second pada that is in Purnavasu is right here, which is what is in Mars. Okay, so a very masculine role in the economy. Artha, the politics is all about going after generating income to put clothes and food in your mouth and on your back. Meaning the politicians are looking out for themselves. and that's Artha. If you see it all the way to the right at the top where it says purpose, the purpose behind the United States is under Artha. And Artha is literally about generating income for clothes, food to put on your back. But in Gemini, again, it's about the society, only for the society. So if you're not in the club, you don't get to put the food in your mouth and the clothes in your bag. Okay, that's the key thing. And with it being Jupiter, it is a very tribulous effort to move forward in the society of being an American. You have to, if you're a part of a low income and low frequency social economic group, aka Gemini is these groups in society, then you're pretty much assed out. If you're a part of that high society and you were kind of born into that, then the beauty is, you're gonna have a lot of energy to move forward and to take aggressive action on what you think and what the people in your society think. So that's that there. Okay. We're going to move to number 5. The cars are absolutely necessary. Okay. The distance is crazy, bro. Like, you can't live there without a car, yo. Like, everything is so far. And so for me, this is a con. It's a tremendous con. Like, you go there, and now you used to be able to rent a car for $20 in the United States. Now it's like $70 for the day. And that's very different. Like, cars, this it's not accessible. Okay, taking the bus, um, and trains, these are part of the low social economic groups, right? There aren't city bikes in a lot of cities. Scooters, they cost so much money, like, to rent one of those electric scooters to get where you need to go. So I feel like when it comes to transportation, it's a war zone, and you really see that with, and you could look at any of these charts, but I'm looking really more at that Mars in Megashersha, which is Mars in Gemini. You could even look at the other chart, and Mars is still in Gemini. So there's a war zone when it comes to traffic and transportation, and it's one of the ways in which they keep you down. And in all sincerity, what are we learning today? I love Mexico too, girl. We're gonna talk. Mexico's coming up next. I'm like streamlining to the U.S. content. So we're talking about the astrocartography. Feel free if you want to learn about the astrocartography, if you want to take a one-on-one reading with me, we'll get more into it. But we're talking about should you move to the United States or should you move to Mexico based off the pros and the cons. I'm looking at the charts of when Mexico gained its independence and when the United States formed and gained its independence, aka slaughtered everybody, like they did in Mexico with the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Black Seminole Indians. Okay, the Indians were here first in Mexico too. They won't tell you that though. All right, so um, everybody is leaving. Foreigners own so much. The Chinese own the United States. They own a lot of places in the world. Indians own. The Irish own. There's so many cultures that are not actually Americans. Which, who's an American? An American is somebody. It's a melting pot. That was part of the pro, right? Anybody can come here and create an opportunity, even though it's difficult. It's a very long and arduous process because the sun was run by Jupiter, and Jupiter is about trials and tribulations and having to take a very it's blessed, but the path to being and gaining your blessings are very difficult in the United States, and the intentions are hidden when you look at the USA Placidus chart. Okay, what house is this? AKA in the 7th house. So your connections in business, it's about keeping them private. AKA the United States. I can't call this a pro or a con, but it's about looking at your relationships in the United States and actually not telling people who you know. All right. And realizing that you climb the ladder when you know Mick Jagger. Okay. You don't tell people you know Mick Jagger. You just climb the ranks with Mick Jagger in private, like this. When you start talking about, oh, I know Drake. Oh, I know this. Oh, I know that. It may get you somewhere on the short run, but then it exposes your ambitions. And then people start to manipulate you by understanding your wants and your needs. And that's in the US. Maybe you can call that a con, maybe you call that a pro. I think it matters for each individual. Other than that, I think the frequency is super duper low. That's another con. Okay, it's full of hustlers, full of people who are scamming because everybody's trying to make a buck. All right, so that's that. So let's try to get to. Let's see what's up. Okay, one of the cons. I feel like one of the cons in the U.S. A lot of people are leaving. Like when I first got my passport, I think about 28% to 33% of people had a passport. Now about 48% of people have their passport. People are leaving. People are discovering that there's more out there. And what that's doing is it's making the U.S. more fearful. And the politicians and the people who are lawmakers and governing, they are understanding that their conditionings are being revealed, aka the sun and Cancer. And this is not very positive for them. You know, when Cancer starts to lose control, they want to put down more regulations and control. And that's what you see happening. They're starting to lie. This is something that the U.S. does with the Cancer sun. When Cancer is in its low frequency, it lies to gain more control. It manipulates emotionally. So you see this happening with the Mars. What's the moon? That's key right now. What's the moon in the United States? The moon is Aquarius. Am I reading that properly? Yeah. The moon is Aquarius. Um, so Aquarius is run by the sixth house. This is how they manipulate. They manipulate by keeping your mind overly busy on the day to day. Okay, and instead of and they try to make sure that they use mind control to try to humble you to the point of lowering you, not humble in a positive sense where, you know, you take, they do it by helping you, they're making you take pride in domestically being an American. And that's how they start to control your mind. And they do it by creating discounts in the sixth house. So the moon in Aquarius is ruled by the sixth house. So they do this by, they control your mind by creating discounts. And so when it comes to budgeting, instead of you budgeting like certain families in the United States that has grown within the high society, which is Aquarius. Aquarius is high society. It is knowing the most famous people in power. It is knowing large organizations that can get you to bypass and find loopholes if you're able to mastermind and use your creative intelligence to listen to God. And who's God in this instance? The sun. Who's the sun? Cancer for the US. Who is that? Your traditions and your literally it's your traditions, and they get you to believe I'm an American, and you fight very pridefully, but your pride is hidden even from you. And so what they do is they create discounts and discounts and discounts. So if you don't know how to manage money, like an Aquarius naturally would, what you do when you see a sale, you spend your money, you buy things, and what that does, you don't budget, you spend all your money. So you think because it's cheaper. That's one way. Okay, there's a lot of ways that they do this, and that's a topic we can get into. Okay, so we're gonna move into Mexico's chart. Okay, that's why I'm really here. Okay, we're gonna move into Mexico's chart. So this is when Mexico found its independence in 1821. Now it really found its independence in 1810, but it took them that extra 11 years to get the approval and have it stamped. So I did it from when it really got that. It already kind of gained it 1810, September 16th, but it was more like August 24th in 1821 when it officially was free. And Veracruz, Cordoba more specifically. Eventually they expanded west and that became Mexico City, the largest city, right? And so here's Mexico chart. Let me take a moment to talk about the pros of Mexico. Okay. So let's get this on the screen. I appreciate y'all for hitting the thumbs up and the likes button, for your patience. My computer's getting hot. I'm hot. It's hot as hell. Timmy. Okay. So So we're going to talk about the pros of Mexico. Okay. And mind you, like these pros and these cons, I could probably extend it. I could have probably did a little bit better on this, but I really just was so passionate that I had to just, I was like, I want to do it and I want to do it now. Okay. So that's number one. Let's get number two out there. Okay, so let's be frank, right? The first pro of Mexico is the cost of living. Like, let's be real, yo. The cost of living is not as cheap as it used to be. So I will make that admittance because the US dollar is crashing. So I'll say that for if you are Mexican, the cost of living, you're doing well. Your peso's getting stronger against the US dollar. And a lot of Americans that their only real outlet is Mexico. So should you move to Mexico or not? I'm telling you right now, like, yes. Okay, absolutely yes. And the reason I say that is because I've traveled for 7 years, a lot of countries, a lot of continents, and it's very difficult to become a resident. Most of them you have to leave 3 months on average, 2 months at the minimum. I would say 1 month, depending on what country. That's very few. Most countries you get at least 2 months. The average is 3 months. Mexico gives you 6 months with no visa. Okay, 6 months no visa. That's the highest I've seen, and you can actually get your residency visa here. If you would like me to do a video on that, let me know in the chat and say, look, make a video on getting your residency here in Mexico. All right, so uh, the cost of living is way cheaper than the US still, and regardless, though the US dollar is crashing. I think it's called floundering. It's floundering right now. It's struggling. It's not nearly as strong. When I first arrived in Mexico, you got 22 pesos to the dollar, and I think that was in 2021. Now, even before that, I arrived in like 2017, and it was way more, right? It was like 25, I think. Don't quote me on that. It was 22 in 2021. Now it is 16 on average, 16 pesos from the so it dropped 5 pesos. It's a good chunk. It's a great percent. What is that? 25%? I don't know. Don't quote me on that math right now. Um, but the cost. Come on, bro. Stop. Forgive me in the chat, yo. They tripping right now. Okay. Give me this number 5. Thank you. Okay, so when I look at this, the cost of living, I mean, you can average. I feel like if you're a Westerner coming in, most people are paying about 800 US dollars to 1,000 US dollars. Now I'm gonna tell you, if you're paying $1,000 USD in Mexico, you live in a pretty lofty place. Like you live in where like your house looks like you're rich. If you're paying 1,000 US dollars in Mexico, you look like you live in a rich crib, and that's in major cities. Like your junk is mad modern. You have all the amenities. $1,000 here looks more like $2,200 in the United States. Okay, so more than double. Looks like 22, and that's not New York City and San Francisco, right? Like $1,000 of what you get here for $1,000 looks more like $4,000 in the U.S., $5,000 for an apartment in the U.S. straight up for $1,000 in Mexico. So that's that. You're looking at $800, and because I think the largest cost is going to be the largest cost flat out. It's going to be your rent. Okay, if you're looking at about $800, you're still looking at in New York, San Francisco, still a $3,000 apartment. In cities that are not that expensive, I would say about $1,700 apartment in the U.S. Okay, on average. You can get one about 600, and let's just kind of cut it there. You're just happy. You're going to be very, 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 very happy. Straight the hell up. You're going to be very, very, very happy with what you get. Now, other than that, fruits, vegetables, all that, you're paying fractions. Okay, let's be real. Like you're paying fractions. Like I think I went grocery shopping. I just got back, so my fridge was empty. I just got back from the U.S. and my fridge was empty, and I had got what, 81 pesos, so about $5. Then I went again the next day because I was missing a couple things, 38 pesos, so 120 pesos. And that's about $7 to $8. I pay about 7 to 8, I call it 8. I'll pay $8 to have groceries for the next 5 days. For the next 5 days, $8 for groceries. Like, let's be real. Can you pay $8 for groceries? For groceries. So your rent is gonna be what it's gonna be. That's the hardest thing you gotta figure out how to finagle. But even then, 800 and you good, like no matter what. 600 and you could luck out. No. But I feel like you should plan for about 700. I feel like if you want to be happy and comfortable, plan for about 700 at the low. And understand that on Airbnb, you're gonna, for a nice apartment, you're gonna look and you're gonna see higher than 700 on Airbnb for a nice apartment. But then when you get here, you can actually start negotiating and talking to people and get that down. Okay. So let's just say cost of living is just the biggest pro. Like, let's be real. Now let's move to the next one from Mexico. Lifestyle. Okay, lifestyle is phenomenal, and we're not really even really looking at the chart yet, but lifestyle's phenomenal. I feel like I could have looked at the chart for this number one. Let's see what happened for the second house here. Okay, seventh house. Let's go to the basic chart. Seventh house, Leo. Okay, the sun is shining in Leo on the second house. Like, I feel like this is why in Mexico, especially in general, a lot of people own their businesses. A lot of people own their brick and mortars. They're the boss. So I will say that. And as a part of that, they make the price. There's no middleman. I think this is one of the biggest things. Like, you go to a grocery store, there's a middleman. When you own a market and you sell your own vegetables, it's yours. Okay, so I think that's the big thing with that Leo in the second house. If you look down at the chart, and that's something that stays private overall. Like, no one really understands who owns what, but they own it. Okay. Now, if I look over at lifestyle, that makes you kind of want to look at the sixth house, maybe even the third house. Let's pull up. Let me see lifestyle number 2. Where are you at number 2? Okay. Lifestyle, more relaxed, more focused on family and community. This is to me an obvious, like the city I live in. This is not the chart you see here, but the city I live in, there's like an Aquarius stellium, and they love community. Like, they love get-togethers. They have get-together daily, weekly, monthly, every night, depending on if you know who you know. They love to get together. That's one thing. They love family. They love community. They love vibing, and it's consistent, and it usually costs you nothing, right? Like, it don't cost you anything to meet up with people. I feel like in the U.S., it costs you stuff. Like, you want to go meet up with somebody, you have to pay something, right? Whether it's a roller skating rink, whatever, right? You gotta pay. But here, I feel like this is something where there's a focus on family, and like, your family owns the property, they own the land, like they own the store, they own the things that you want to go do. So you're not really paying for that stuff, and it's a beautiful thing. Lifestyle, they go to parks. They're very affectionate as a culture. They're very loving. They love romance. You look and you see people making out on the side of the sidewalk. You see people. You even see teens dry humping in the park. Like, you see people hugging, people laughing, people sharing food, people just being tremendously generous at every corner. They're very warm as a people, as a culture. And you don't get that. To me, that's a con in the U.S. Like, the U.S. is not warm, minus a few places. But even in those places where they're warm, there's intentions underlying. And I feel like in Mexico, it's like love is the intention. Like, I love you. I love you because you exist. I love you because you're me. I love you because, we're alive. And why not? And so I feel like lifestyle, if I look at the sixth house, Uranus, Neptune happening in Capricorn, like I said, I think that's why it's very family oriented, and like the family kind of go ahead and it takes the steps to mature and to gain the resources, the monies, the assets, so that they can actually support the society and the lower class people. People do share, people give to the homeless. Like, you have these options. The homeless is nowhere near close to the same, not even remotely to the United States. I think that's part of that con of the United States being the cost of living so crazy. Wow. So as I move on, and I see number 3, let's be honest, like, the climate is incredible, right? Like, I'm a little warm right now, but like I said, I'm wearing jeans, like, and I am wearing jeans because I don't want to get bit by mosquitoes. Like, that's just the simple truth. But at the end of the day, it's warm, it's beautiful climate. You have a lot of things that you can do. I will say that there's really two major cities that you would live in, and that's going to be Mexico City and that's going to be Guadalajara. The second largest city is Monterrey, and you don't want to live there. Let's be real, like it's way, 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 way too hot. And it's pure dry and desert. Okay, if you're not a corporate worker, you're not really there. If maybe you're only if you're Mexican. If you're somebody trying to move and decide, you're not moving to Monterrey. Just be real. You're moving here. You're trying to move to Puerto Vallarta. You're trying to move to Playa del Carmen, maybe Tulum if you got extra big bank, like because that's like California prices in Tulum. Um, and I think there's some smaller towns you could just choose if you want to live a calmer and quieter life and you're not really a city person. Chiapas, Puebla. I would say Puebla would be amazing. Beautiful nature in these places down below. Not the city life, not millions of people. If you're a city person, 22 million people in Mexico City. It doesn't feel like that though. It feels much smaller. Feels community based. 5 million people in Guadalajara, the city that I live in. Again, it feels like a city within a city within a city within a town within a town within a town. So you don't really you have these local neighborhoods. The climate is, if you like dry heat, kind of close to like maybe Texas without the humidity. And that's the beautiful thing. It's dry heat like Texas, but without humidity. So if you like that, then I would say Guadalajara is a great city for you. If you don't like that and you want less pollution, I would say Mexico City is great for you. They have more rain there than they do here. If you like rain, I would say again, going down there, more tropical. The further south you go from Mexico City, more tropical. So the point is, you have every climate. You can do every climate, okay, in Mexico. And I think it's just tremendously beautiful. Weather would be Neptune. You see that it's in Capricorn. And I do feel that the largest parts of Mexico as a whole, it's dry. Okay, it is dry, it is cold, and it's dryness. Okay, I would say the large parts, but you have Amazon type energy. You have lush green places. They are not in the major cities other than Mexico City and other than Yucatan. But in Yucatan, you got the Playa del Carmen, you got the Merida, you get that, but you also get what comes with that, which is tremendous heat. Okay, it is very hot in those areas unless it's winter. So if you have the possibility to get up and move around and you like that lifestyle, you could choose to live there in the winter seasons, and in the summer seasons, you could choose to move to other parts of Mexico that are not as hot. You have that option, and it's cheap to do. $50 flights, okay? $50 flights to $100 max. You can't buy flights to go to different cities, so I'll call that a pro. You're paying $300-400 at a minimum to fly somewhere. You're paying literally a third of that. That is very loud. Okay, so number 4, healthcare. Healthcare is tremendous. It's affordable and it's literally free, depending on who you are. Okay, you can get that. They don't do insurance. You can just you get sick, you go to a clinic, you go, and then literally like within 10 minutes, you're getting seen by a legitimate doctor. You're telling them what your issue is, and they're not prescribing you pills right away. Um, they're telling you what you could do. They're telling you how to make lifestyle choices, and they're doing it very fast. Um, it's not a long process. You don't have to book and schedule ahead. You just go and you go to the clinic on the day. Um, Healthcare, you can get all the drugs that you cannot get in the United States. You can get here over the counter. Naproxen, muscle relaxers, very heavy duty cancer grade painkillers, ibuprofen 800s. You can't get that over the counter in the US. You have to get it prescribed. You can get that over the counter here. Um, every drug you can't get over the counter in the United States, you can get over the counter here, and it costs you nothing, literally pennies. Um, I would say more like $2-3, and you walk away with that drug. Now, what I love about that in healthcare as well is I feel like they don't abuse it. The drugs are not abused because it's so available. You don't need to go through some process. You don't have to get it prescribed by a doctor. You could just go to the store. If you know what you want, you can get it. Okay, like literally, if you know what you want, you know what you need, you can go to the store, you can get it. And it works. Mexican medicine works. U.S. medicine does not. No, and you won't know that, and you won't understand what I'm saying when you say that unless you had Mexican drugs. You realize, like, yo, you take this or this, it's done, it's gone. You don't have to keep taking it. They're not trying to keep you drugged up and medicated. And that's one thing I love about this, other than the fact that, yes, of course, it's affordable. Let's try to see what they have for drugs in the 12th house. You see that Mars in Cancer in the 12th house, 12th house being drugs, Neptune also being Capricorn, another section of drugs. You see that those energies are in opposition. What does that mean? What is that saying? Well, Cancer is about taking care of your own emotional wellness. Also, the conditions, the cultural traditions, and the cultural tradition behind drugs. Being in Mars, aka kind of a masculine energy, but in its debilitation, you know, it's up to you to take care of your own health and your own heart and retreat with drugs in your own responsible way. Like I said, traditionally speaking, people are not abusing the drugs here. And I think that maybe is the opposition to Neptune and Capricorn, right? Because Capricorn is a very responsible sign. So it's like if that Neptune and Capricorn wasn't there, I would say that there would be a much bigger drug problem in Mexico. But because Neptune is there and has that very responsible, disciplined energy, I feel like it is taking drugs and doing them responsibly. And though it's available and you don't have to go to a doctor to get it tried, and no one's abusing it to such an extent. And I won't say that there's not drug addicts. There are coke heads and heroin users. It is here. It exists. But I will also say that it is a fraction to what it is in the United States, and that's a fact. Like literally nothing in comparison. All right, here we go. The food is incredible. Let's be honest. This is one of the biggest. I've been to a lot of countries, and I tell you, Colombia, the food in Colombia is disgusting. It's nasty, flat out. The food in Thailand is incredible. The food in Bali is very basic. The Balinese food itself is very basic. It is very repetitive. Okay. I would say that it can be good, but I will also say that it's not very healthy. It's a lot of it is fried, right? But I will say that Bali, you also have a tremendous amount of an entire vegan movement with the Europeans and the Americans and all the Western culture that has lived and moved here. So you can get very healthy food. When I was there last, for about $4 on average, which is very cheap. I feel like from what I'm hearing now, that has probably increased to about $7, $8. I would say that you can get food here in Mexico, and you have your range. You can get very cheap food if you're getting it fried, the cheapest, right? But obviously not healthy. I will say that you can always still find a taco for $1.50 if you really want. But the Mexican food really expands way outside. You have gringas, you have tamales, you have tacos, you have lunches ahogadas, where it's like, baguette sandwiches with sauce poured on top, usually tomato sauce, but it could be birria, it could be mole, rare. You have mole dishes, you have enmoladas, which is kind of like the enchilada version of Mexico. They're called enmoladas, but in Americans they call them enchiladas. Okay. You also have enchiladas, which are different. You have nachos. You have uh, the food is very expansive. Like, let's be real. Like the food in Mexico, it's very flavorful. The spices are very well crafted. You saw that Mars and Cancer. These are beautiful chefs, right? Look and see Cancer right there. Mars and Cancer. Mars and Cancer is one of the best cooks ever. I have a Mars and Cancer, and I'm a phenomenal cook. Like, let's be real. Um, the food is just next level incredible. In comparison, it's cheap. You can easily eat healthy. The food is less processed by far. You could pay a lot of money for food. You could pay a very little amount. Like there are restaurants where you could pay more than you'll pay in any place in the U.S. for lobster and things like that. You can also get that same lobster and fish for a fraction of the cost. It's just a matter of how bougie you want to be or how cost effective and economic you want to be. The beautiful part is, as a pro for Mexico, you can choose. Okay, you can choose to eat high quality healthy food for nothing. You could choose to eat high quality healthy food for a lot of money, but you can choose, and you don't have that choice, in my opinion, in the U.S. I will also say that the key with this is the foods are very much high vibrational. The people are high vibrational. best food in the world. Like it's walkable. When I went to the U.S., like you can't get food without getting in a car, and that sucks to me. That's one of my cons for the United States. Like I could just walk outside, I could throw a rock or just stretch my leg, and I will hit a new restaurant. And it happens all the time. Restaurants pop up like water in the ocean. You know, it's amazing. Like you always have a new restaurant. You're never gonna run short. Family, love, affection. They're very warm. You will get a family offering you food. When I first came to Tijuana, I think back in 2018, I think it was 2018. I crossed the border on foot, and I had some people that I worked with. They were offering me food right away. They were offering tequila. They were offering endless amounts. You want refills? You want this? You want that? And I think it's very warm, family culture orientated. I went to some friend's house. You know, they share. You bring a, you know, you chip in, they chip in. They have food. They share it. It's very beautiful. I'm talking about food. I'm like, getting like, I want to go eat something. I think this is video number 6. The people are high vibration. The people are warm. They're lovely. They're freaking awesome. Like, Let me see if I can see in the chart what that may be. What that may be highlighting. Who would people be? The moon. Where's the moon? The moon is in Gemini. Well, there you have it. Okay, so the moon is ruled by, in Gemini, is ruled by the second house. The second house is food. It is the ability to generate money within your societies, within your social peers and groups. When I look at the people being warm, you know, the moon in Gemini, I mean, the moon being the people, like, let's be honest, like, Gemini is playful, it's fun, it's curious, it loves to talk a lot. Mexicans love to talk, they talk a lot. They talk nonstop. Like, if I'm being honest, like they will talk about a bunch of nothing sometimes and everything. And it's very easy to talk to people. It's very easy to strike up a conversation. I think it's part of what makes them so warm. Other than the sun being Leo, right? Another warm type people. And then the last, I kind of spoke about this family, love, affectionate. I think that kind of included that all into one little thing. So like I said, this so far is my little take on Mexico, the U.S. I'm kind of getting a little tired. I'm also getting really hungry. I feel like I want to do more videos on astrocartography and kind of speak up on some more of the specific highlights, do a little more structured rather than kind of free falling. But the question at the beginning was, should you move? My most obvious answer is yes. You should get your residency visa because Mexico is allowing it. If you have been here and ever visited, ever, even in just one day of Mexico, before 2021, you will have the easiest process to get your visa. If you visit it after that, the process will be a little more difficult, but you can still get it. You have the potential after 4 years of having your residency visa to become a citizen or a permanent resident, or then a citizen if you want to ever relinquish your citizenship in the USA or any country that you're coming from. You have that option, or you can keep and maintain both citizenships. That's also an option. And I think the key thing, the fact that it's an option, is really where the beauty lies. All right. And so if I think and I look at this residency, should you move, you can get your residency visa in Mexico and you don't have to live here. You can get it and you can leave for literally 4 years and you can return 4 years later and you can apply for permanent residency. You do not have to live here the entire time that you have your residency visa. It is a choice. And that is another rare thing. In Argentina, I think when you get your residency visa, you have to live there for at least 2 years at a minimum. Otherwise, you lose that. And it's a lot more difficult to get your residency visa in Argentina. I think they're changing the laws. Jupiter and Gemini will be changing a lot of these laws and regulations. All right, whether you live on a sun line, a moon line, a Jupiter line, a Venus line, a Pluto line, a Neptune line, all these lines exist. And I didn't really cover that today. It is in the description, the lines that exist inside of the US and the ones that exist inside of Mexico, depending on if you're in California, this and that. I didn't cover that. I feel like it's just a lot. But I will say that I appreciate you for hitting the thumbs up and likes button, for being here. You know, you really rock. I appreciate you. I want to say thank you for sharing the love, for just being present. I see Scorpio Queen, one of our members. I want to say thank you. Shout out to you. Hit the thumbs up and likes button. Check me out for an astrocartography reading if that's something interesting to you. Help you understand. Maybe it's not Mexico, maybe it's not the U.S., but you can find your place that you actually want to live. So I'll see you soon. And thank you for hitting the thumbs up. Check that astrocartography with me. If you're interested, we'll do that one-on-one. That's actually been my most demanded service, I would say. My most in-demand service has been astrocartography. So that's me not even doing videos on it. I want to start doing videos on it. So if you enjoyed this, I want to say thank you and I love you.